Hey guys, welcome back to PODCAST19. I'm your host, Donald Wonder, and I'm here with my guest from the last podcast, Simon Rad.
Hey everybody, welcome back.
So, if you missed the last podcast, last time we actually spoke about the controversy with the Oscars. We spoke about some of the Oscar snubs, which we kind of, well, you call them stubs, we don't call them stubs. Go back and listen to that podcast and tell us what you think. But this time, we're going to be talking about all the Oscar nominations and what we think about them, because on Planet Tyro, we didn't actually speak about a lot of them. I didn't review them. So we're going to do, I don't want to say mini reviews, but we're going to give our thoughts on them. I don't even think I'll give ratings, but I think you'll get how we feel about them from obviously how we talk about them. And then we'll talk about how we think they'll rank and what we think should win.
Yeah, we already analyzed the Oscars, so now let's analyze the actual thing that's important, the movies.
All right, so first of all, Simon has kindly sent me the link to all the lists. If I messed them up, Simon, or I missed something out, please correct me. But we're going to start from the top with the Best Picture nominees and how we feel about them. So I'll just read off the list. All right, so I guess we'll start with the first one, The Big Short. So let me start by saying this movie was pretty well received critically, and I caught up with this movie just last week, and I thought it was pretty damn good. I thought it was good. It was a painful film to watch because it had to do with the financial crisis of 2008 and the people who knew it was coming and took advantage of the situation. And it was well shot, well acted on a whole. I liked it, and do I think it's the Oscar worthy? Do I think it should get the Oscar for movie of the best picture of the year? No, but I'll let you elaborate on what you thought of the movie now.
Really? So after all of that, you don't think it's good enough to be up for Best Picture?
Well, everything I just said applies to a lot of the movies we're going to go down the list. So there's more than just ticking all the boxes to get me personally to give that I think deserves a Best Picture. It's not just everything is good.
Okay. Well, a lot of people compare this to basically Annie Hall, because it's a movie that breaks the fourth wall, and that's kind of that's the thing that stands out about it the most. So the movie deals with the financial crisis, and there's a lot of technical terminology that the characters use, but the director Adam McKay breaks the fourth wall and has the actors and the characters in the movie speak directly to the audience. And every time something really important that's kind of complicated comes up, you actually have a guest appearance for people like Selena Gomez or Margaret Robbie explaining it to you, the dumbed down version. And if you don't know Adam McKay, he did basically non-serious comedies like Anchorman or Step Brothers beforehand.
Really?
So this is like, yeah, this is his big outing to do something that's a little bit more serious.
Okay. And
a little bit more dramatic. And like we spoke about with Trainwreck previously, this is a good example of something that has a comedic vein, can be also recognized as a high quality movie. To me, the movie stands out because it deals with a real current issue in everyday society, which is the banking system, and that basically any kind of theft or illegality is completely excused because of several political factors. So anything that can be so bold and open about it and package it in a very entertaining movie is an instant knockout. So I definitely see it as a nomination, and it was one of the movies I enjoyed, from that kind of Oscar vein this year.
Sure.
But it's not amongst my favorites. But I'm cool with it getting a nomination just because it deals with an important subject matter, and it deals with it a unique way. It's not a drawn out drama. It's not told from a perspective of some guy who lost his entire life savings and isn't completely depressing. They do an entertaining spin on it, but never lose track of how serious the subject matter is and the deeper implications that this had on the majority of middle and working class people, not only in America but then through the ripple effect around the world.
Okay, but you're not naming it as your Oscar pick either. That's the picture of the year.
No. not one of my top picks,
Okay.
but I'm not saying that, if it gets nominated, it's a cop out.
Okay, which you did.
Yeah, I kind of did, but I kind of didn't. See, I would be a good banker now. It's like, I'm not saying you're losing money. I'm just saying you're not actively making money at this moment.
Okay, so let's go into the next movie, Bridge of Spies. So, Bridge of Spies, is Bridge of Spies a true story, by the way? I think it was a true story.
It is a story. It's based on a real person. Tom Hanks plays a real guy, and it's based on a real incident. And I don't want to spoil the movie for those who haven't seen it, but basically the experience he goes through and the result of it in Bridge of Spies also leads to other political events in American history.
Yeah.
And it's Spielberg's, for me at least, Spielberg's return to form. I can go ahead with this one because I can do a very brief summary of why I liked it. Basically,
that's the point. Why do you like it?
For me, Spielberg went through a mellow phase in recent years, ever since Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls was his last outing for a more exciting movie, minus the animated stuff like Tintin. And he kind of made these mellow, subtle movies based on real historical events that weren't really up my alley. But this one was just very well made. I really, really enjoyed the quality, direction, cinematography, acting in it. And why I really liked it, and why this is actually one of my top picks for the year, because it's a very clever movie. It highlights real life current issues that we have in terms of our political attitude towards foreigners, towards the justice system, towards not only refugees but enemies in war, by revisiting a period in history that kind of echoed that, but shows it from a different perspective. Shows it that back in the day, how important it was to keep our values. The whole movie's about how Tom Hanks basically is a lawyer defending a communist spy, and the only reason he's asked to do it, and he himself is doing it, because it's an American right. If you're in America, regardless where you come from, you have the right to be represented. That was back in the day incredibly important. And, the movie really shows a beautiful human connection being made between these two strangers who just happen to bump together in this situation. And by the book, they should be each other's enemies, at least according to their countries and politics. That should be the scenario.
Sure.
But that's not what happens at all. And if you mirror that with what goes on in the current political landscape, where literally every second word is, how should we carpet bomb a bunch of civilians, or how should we deport a certain group of people from somewhere, or how should we build a giant wall between our neighbors, you really kind of see a country that's lost its way. So it's like looking in the mirror and not recognizing yourself again. And Spielberg does it with such elegance and subtlety, and the fact that it's a really entertaining movie that doesn't need to be extreme. It can be very subtle. It was just a knockout. It's a subtle movie. It's not a thriller. It's not nail biting. There's not a whole lot of giant set pieces, but it's very well made. And it reminded me of a more serious political version of Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
In terms of Spielberg's direction, not the story.
Sure, I think that's a fair description. I agree with what you said on the most part. I enjoyed it as well. It didn't ring... I liked the observations you made as well, which I completely agree with. It was seeing Tom Hanks' character go through this, sticking to his principles and going the distance. He went, this character went the distance, and by the end, it was very touching. The last scene you see Tom Hanks on the bed was awesome. It had a smile on my face. It gave me the feeling of a Spielberg movie, that good feeling in your heart that, that was really nice. Yeah. It was really sweet. But overall, I thought it was just a really good, a much more adult movie, a little bit less open to the mass appeal. I should only speak for myself. I enjoyed the movie. I just thought it was a very good movie for me personally. It's a movie I don't think the majority of people would like, because it's just too... It's too... The subject matter is interesting, but it's a little bit. I don't want to say it's fair to say it's kind of niche in what's dealing with. I don't think the mass Steven Spielberg fans would actually be like, I don't like this kind of thing. But to be fair, you will know within the first 20 minutes it's a simple spy movie, but it's very engrossing characters. I like the movie. This is more of what I would consider to be Oscar worthy, because it's at least it's sticking to something. It's more focused on one thing, and it's bringing more of a human connection, and it has a ripple effect on the law. It's a true story as well. So there's things here that this is more of what I think of an Oscar-worthy movie. But in terms of how I feel about it, I was just like, I really liked this movie. It was a really good movie. I've seen movies like this before, but this was good. And that's for being Steven Spielberg. He does movies where he's gone bigger budget with stuff, and he's done movies at smaller budget. I just think this is one of his better, smaller efforts. But looking down the list, it still isn't the one I'd pick for the best picture from what we see on the list we're getting to. But it's a very good movie, and I liked it. I liked it more than The Big Short, but they're different movies altogether. But that's just my opinion.
I would agree with you on that, and I think you nailed it when you said that it's not a crowd-pleasing movie. Because the biggest complaint I had with Spielberg with his previous films, that they're a little bit too crowd-pleasing. Yeah, they're a little bit too sappy, or I don't want to sound harsh, but basically they're very pandering to the audience.
Definitely.
When something's supposed to be emotional, it gets very heavy with the music, the cinematography, the acting. It's very much like, be sad, be very sad, then be happy, be very happy.
Yeah.
Here the story speaks for itself. It's a more elegant movie, and I think it works better, at least the way he does it. You want to move on to speaking of immigrants, to everybody's favorite immigrants.
Where the Brooklyn at? I would use
not those ones. No. Go further back.
Oh, I haven't got your list. You go with movie.
Yeah, that is the one.
Oh, okay. Brooklyn. Okay, I think to go further back. Oh, go further back in time. I lost you there.
Go further back in time. That's what I mean.
There. You see, it's getting late, people. So if you don't know, we're both tired. That's why I'm not catching up with Simon. But anyway, Brooklyn is a romance movie about an Irish girl who's torn between her family and her future prospects, and she's torn between two men, and it's a love triangle story. And let me just say for the record, this was one of the movies that a lot of people were like, why was this movie nominated for best picture? It's just a standard romance, and I completely understand that. I like the movie as a standard romance, and I will admit, even though I like the movie, I'm a little bit surprised it's actually in the running for best picture. Even some of the movies that we mentioned that were snubbed, I'm like, this movie, it's just like a standard romance. The main actress, so Risa Ronan, I know I'm pronouncing her name wrong, she's great in it. She does a great performance over it. Very sweet. It's a very sweet, subtle movie. It's a very sweet, subtle romance. The American romantic interest, he's cool. Then Donald Gleason, the guy who's in fucking everything. You've seen him in Ex Machina. You've seen him in Ex Machina, Star Wars. He's been in everything. He's just news. If you look at this guy's IMDb, he's crazy. He's got a small part in the movie, but to sum this up, I don't know why this movie's in the list. It's a good romance movie, but first of all, if you go back in, there's been better romance movies in the Oscars, outside the Oscars. This doesn't have enough rivets, ups and downs, and nothing's going on to warrant it being in the Oscars. Even though I enjoyed it, I can be the first to say this shouldn't be in the running. It shouldn't really be, but I enjoy the movie. Honestly, that's my thoughts. It's good, but it shouldn't be in the best picture category at all.
I'm gonna keep it short because I really, really don't get why this is nominated, and you just went on about that. But effectively, going back to the controversies that we talked about in the previous episode, in part 1, see, this is what they mean. Because when you look at this movie, this is a 3-part BBC TV show stuffed together, chopped up and stuffed together in one movie. This shouldn't even be in theaters. I'm not saying the acting is bad or the story is, not enjoyable for the love triangle. Yeah. I'm just saying this movie, even the way it's shot and the way it plays out, is so predictable and so, mundane, so afternoon tea party like, that just plays in the background. That
sure,
it really doesn't stand out. And last year, the biggest complaint from the Academy and the reasoning why they didn't nominate Selma was because they said that it's a movie that has a great story and is well presented, but nothing stands out about it. Even though people that watched it were very, very emotional, regardless what background you come from. You really
I
felt
forgot about
emotion.
that. I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
That makes me upset. But go on.
Yeah, but basically, in short, they said it's a very nice movie that tells a beautiful, important story, but there's no giant hoopla around it. There's no amazing achievement. There's nothing that it's not a technical achievement. It's not shot in an incredibly unique way. It's neither this, neither that. It's just a well-made movie. And yet here we are a year later, and here's a super mundane, home TV production that supposed to, like we talked about Bridge of Spies echoing today's political climate. I guess this is supposed to be a commentary on how we treat immigrants both overseas and even in the UK and Europe. It's a common political topic.
Yeah.
But oh my God, like the characters in this movie didn't have the struggle. I mean, her story is more about the love and her situation as a young girl than really being an immigrant in a foreign country. That's a very, very thin stretch to call this like a period piece echoing the problems in today's society. And
no.
Trust me, anybody who just came off of a boat from Syria will not look at this movie and go like, I'm so lucky I'm not her. She had it so bad. Oh no, get out of here.
Let's not spend any more time on this because it doesn't deserve it. We both agreed.
That's it. That bottom line, it's not that dramatic. It really is a political argument, and it's just a mundane movie. I mean, that's it. It highlights a particular bias towards a certain category of film.
I understand what you're saying from the Academy political standpoint, and I do think, like, just to wrap this up, I do think that they got their list of nominees and they thought we need a romance movie, and they put this in there. But I know that's what I just look at this as I'm like, where's the romance movie in the nominees? I'm like, there it is. There's your best picture romance. There should always be one, and I just feel like this was the only one they thought was worthy this year. I'm sure there was probably a better one, but for some reason, maybe the old guys in the Academy thought, oh, this one really speaks to me. It reminds me of my youth. So, I don't know.
Anyways, moving on to something a little bit more exciting.
Oh!
Mad Max Fury Road.
Yes. This is another one
everyone loved.
This is the movie everyone loved, but there's a big controversy with this movie where people are saying that this is not an Oscar movie. This is not what the Oscars are about. The Oscars are not about action movies, driving through the desert. Mad Max is a travesty. It's a travesty.
Well, you nailed it. Like we talked, like it goes from movie to movie. Brooklyn was political, and this is it too, for a certain perspective.
Yeah.
You see, the Oscars are struggling to get young people to tune in, because they are stubborn and they don't want to adapt to the streaming model. They don't want to be on demand. They want to keep their ad revenue from commercials. But people, young people, they don't like tuning in at a particular time. They want to do whatever they want and then just watch it on whatever device they want, wherever. And if they can't do that easily, they're just going to pirate it. So they really, really try to reach out to them any way they can. And Mad Max was a golden opportunity of, here's a movie that's part of a big franchise, is a big summer blockbuster, but is sort of the return of a cherished director, a huge accomplishment from a filmmaking perspective, whether it be the special effects, from the directing, from the action, cinematography, even the acting is pretty damn good for such a straightforward action movie. It's basically close to 2 hours of nonstop action and explosions. It's like a Michael Bay movie without Michael Bay or American flags or the nonsense.
If there was a best action movie category, not even action, best spectacle movie.
They go segregating again. You want to segregate every movie to its own category.
The reason why I'm doing that is because it shouldn't be for best picture on a whole. On a whole, best picture, everyone has their own idea what best picture should be. Mad Max ticks a lot of boxes, but it doesn't bring a certain, like, I feel like there's a passion. It needs to bring out a passion in me that Mad Max was super enjoying, super entertaining on a very
superficial level.
Yeah, it's just like it's playing an awesome computer game and then saying the game should get an award for the best game ever made. It's like, that was a great fun game, but there's all these other games that have brought so much other emotions out of me. This game just was fun. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't riveting. It was just a lot of fun. So on that, you know what's funny? I understand why Mad Max to me on this list is like a sore thumb. It's like, this is here obviously because they're trying to reach out to a certain group of people. Other than that, they would never have put this movie here. So to me, it's just, this is obvious. It's like, this movie's here for a reason, and it's not because it's the best picture. It's just because they want to people. Just like you said, we're still hip, guys. We know what the cool kids like. You like Mad Max? It was the best action movie. I just put it in there. Let's throw my ball. Fuck that. This movie was really fun. Best picture, especially coming up against the next movie we're gonna mention. Nah, man. Sorry. I just think this was out. This shouldn't be there. But it was not saying it was a good movie, but for me, this should not be in the best picture list.
Hey, if they want to reach out to young people, they should have nominated Straight Out of Compton, the actual best picture.
Too racial, too controversial, fuck the police, no fuck you, that's not happening.
Nah, but I know what you're saying, because this is like another makeup category, like makeup nomination. Like, The Dark Knight could have got this, and that would have deserved it. And then they would have had, the young people and the nerds and everybody cheering, because that was an all-around masterpiece. Directing, acting, writing. It was just a comic book movie. And at that point, that wasn't good enough. And it kind of still isn't. Right. But yeah, I mean, I Mad Max is one of my favorite movies. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from, where this is a token nomination.
Thank you.
Speaking of which, everybody's favorite token nom, Matt Damon is back as the Martian.
So guys, I did a review for The Martian, the book. I'm going to be that guy and say the book was... I'm joking. The movie was a very good adaptation. The movie was a very good adaptation of the book. The movie was fine. There was something about this movie that I was just like... I cannot... You know what people said? Oh, we need a world movie, or a movie where the world is... Everyone's involved. Everyone's holding hands. Everyone's doing their best to save this guy. Oscar, like, they can always see Oscar. Now, I was watching this movie, I'm like... The guy fucking saves himself. Oh, spoiler, sorry. The guy more or less saves himself, more or less.
This review is turning into something else. It's like, what direction are you going with this?
Look, what are you talking about? I'm just giving my opinion. This is what you guys are doing, in my opinion. The Martian was a good movie, but it didn't bring anything out of me. It didn't bring any emotion. To be honest with you, everything I said about Mad Max, I can say about this movie. Looked good. Okay character. I think it was the Golden Globes that gave it a best comedy because they thought it was funny. Look, man, the movie, honestly, I don't have much to say about The Martian. It was a very enjoyable movie, but honestly, I think it's actually a forgettable movie. I think The Martian is it's a fun movie, but it's not like Apollo 13. It's not like, that's different. There's something about a movie that drove you, that makes you feel tension.
Oh, yeah. It's not 2001: A Space Odyssey either, it's not one of those. I know what you mean. Yeah,
I just see it as, let's put in a movie here where the whole world gets together. It's even with that, even with everyone trying to help or whatever, Matt Damon's character is basically everything in this movie, and he honestly doesn't go through a lot of arcs. All he is very entertaining, and the last hurdle, whatever, and my heart was never beaten, and I don't know what to say. It's another movie that's like, I understand what's on the list, to be honest with you, but even though I enjoyed it, in a way I didn't care for it, and I feel like the movie is kind of forgettable, but it's a good movie. I know that's me contradicting myself a little bit, but I just think it's ultimately kind of forgettable.
Don't worry, you did that at least 4 or 5 times in that little monologue, so don't worry about contradiction anymore. Or you're fine. It's like, but I know why. I know why you're in that mindset. I'll tell you why. Because it's just like Mad Max. This is a special effects nomination. These movies are nominated usually in the special effects category, sound editing, CGI, costume design even. Basically, special effects. That's what stands out about these movies. But this year, the Best Picture nominations are full of picks meant to drive interest, tweets, that kind of stuff. And they were trying to reach out to movies that have that artistic merit because of the directors, like Ridley Scott in The Martian's case.
Sure.
That have that, history with the Academy of doing standout pictures. But also, these movies are more commercial and they do better at the box office. The Martian was programmed to come out when it came out because 2 years ago, Gravity did very well. And a year after that, Interstellar did very well at the same time. So I was actually shocked that this wasn't a Warner Brothers movie. I think Warner Brothers, who work with Ridley Scott's production company quite often, really gave up on this because they read the book and thought it would make a boring movie. And I think they really missed out on having a good tradition of having a sci-fi movie that does well during the winter time. But that's neither here nor there. I agree with you. I really enjoy the movie. It's well done. The 3D is useless if you haven't seen it, and you catch a re-release of it. Don't watch it in 3D. But outside of that, it's very entertaining and everybody's good in it. But that's it. It's just good.
Yeah.
If we get a win in any kind of special effect, I would say congrats to those people because they did a very good job. But in terms of any other nomination, including Best Picture, no. I wouldn't put it up there. I think both Interstellar and Gravity, which are the counterparts to this movie, did more. And I rank those movies higher in terms of ambition and artistic merit. This is a very good adaptation of a very good book, done in a very entertaining way, but nothing more.
Agreed.
And the next movie.
Well, before you get to the next movie, I just want to tell you right off the bat, the next 3 movies we're going to speak about, these are my 3 Oscar movies. I'll just say that right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. I'll let you go ahead then, because obviously you have much more to say about these, because you giving your year-end review as well, or year-end review. Let's jump into it. The next one is again a visceral movie, The Revenant, or as they call it, the final coming of Leonardo DiCaprio,
or the final coming of that bear, because that bear came on time. That was a dirty joke. If you guys didn't watch the movie, don't worry. The Revenant, this is a word that defines the word visceral, because the way it's shot is throwing you in there, and this film has multiple things going for it. The direction's great, the shooting of the movie, cinematography wise, is great. Leonardo DiCaprio is fantastic. I cared about the story. It was beautiful to watch. It was slow paced. I watched the movie twice. The first time I watched it was illegally. I have to admit it. One of my friends bought a pirate. He said, "Let's watch this movie." And I heard reviews that it was overhyped. I watched it the first time. I didn't like it. But because we're doing this podcast, I watched it a second time. I really enjoyed it the second time. And honestly, everything in this movie was above average. The cinematography was above average. The story, it was just above average. I mean, it's kind of a revenge story, but it's based on real, true events, even though it's a little bit adapted. It's a little bit bent here and there. But overall, the story brought me in with its visceralness. That's not even the word, but the way it was visceral, it made me care about Leonardo DiCaprio, what happened to him and his something. And then the story was really good. Honestly, it drew me in. I thought, this is a movie I'm not going to forget. It brought out some passion, some emotion in me. And this was like, yes, I hope Leonardo gets a best actor for this movie, because this movie really did have everything for it. And I really did like the movie. And I think it was directed by, who directed the movie?
I have to look that up for you.
It was someone who's done something very recently I liked, just on the tip of my tongue. But either way, I really like the movie. It's one of my top 3 for the pick of best, including the next 2. That's my thoughts on The Revenant.
I agree with you there. It's definitely one of the standout movies this year. It's done by the same director who gave us Birdman last year.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely a very visionary director.
Yes.
That's what stood out the most in Birdman, that the way it was shot, like a stage play. It tries to mimic continuous shot with, all the edits are hidden a certain way to make you kind of feel like it's the movie never breaks. And he didn't repeat himself. He didn't do Steve Jobs, although watching Steve Jobs, people thought, is this the same guy who did Birdman? But no, it was Danny Boyle. But he actually went out of his way to do something very, very different. And the big standout thing about this is how the movie looks, how it's shot, the cinematography, the atmosphere, the visuals. And I agree with you. I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed Leonardo DiCaprio. I think Tom Hardy did a great job as usual, but he kind of he's getting closer to Johnny Depp phase, where he repeats the same approach to every role. Like he always has a very hard accent, a very thick accent. You can barely understand what he's saying, and he's got this over the edge character who's completely gone, half animal, half man.
Yeah.
Or at least has some deep anger, psychological problems. I would like to see him do more of the Inception type of roles, like the Forger he had, more of a charismatic guy than somebody who's caricature.
Sure.
But to wrap it up, this definitely deserves a nomination. I can see this being people's film of the year because it's just such a visceral experience. It's very violent, so it's not for everybody.
Sure.
There's a lot of blood, a lot of violence, and it's a very brutal movie, and it depicts its time in a very violent nature, and explores the most violent aspects of human existence. And speaking of fucked up, Room is the next movie on the list.
Yeah, Room. So the Room. The thing is, saying some of the plot of this movie is a bit of a spoiler because some people still don't know what it's about. You see a mother and a child.
Oh yeah.
On the front, and they're in a room. I don't want to say why because that might be a spoiler. Don't want to say what happens in the movie, but I do want to say, and I'm being vague because I don't want to spoil the movie. But I do want to say this is another one of my pick of best movies of the year because this is a movie where emotion and acting almost trumps everything else. The situation is very distressing and intense in a way, but it's shot in a very it's shot in, I guess it's kind of a bottle film for the most part. It's shot in a room anyway, and the situation is just it's horrible, and the kid actor is phenomenal. The kid actor has to see life from a totally unique perspective, and that's what makes the film very unique. And halfway through the movie it takes a different transition which gives the film a different inflection because you see the movie from the kid's point of view when they're in a different situation. So the movie is very interesting. The leads are good, the story's good, the cinematography is nothing special because of the situation of the movie anyway, but it's not about that. It's about the story and the characters, and it's a very small cast film anyway. It's not a lot going on, but it's just sometimes you don't need a lot to be great, and it's acted really well, and it's just sometimes one thing can be so good it can outshine so many other things, so many other movies, and this one kid, the situation and the way it's done as a movie overall is absolutely fantastic, and it's a very unforgettable movie. But saying that, one of my friends saw the movie and was saying to me it's a very horrible situation. But as you guys might know, there was this woman called J.C. Dugard in real life who had a very similar situation, even a worse situation happened to her. And I actually read the book. It's called A Stolen Life. So that book is very graphic. Like when you watch this movie, the things that happen in this movie, if anyone's read the book or you know about this girl, that something very horrible happened to her. The book was so graphic, it actually made this book a bit. The punch wasn't as hard for me because when you read up to this other girl, that this book is very similar, and this case I'm talking about is very similar anyway. So this book to me was like, if I hadn't heard of the situation before, it would hit hard. It would have hit me a lot harder, and it hit a lot of people a lot harder. So they like it, but I like the movie on the whole. It's very, 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 very good, and definitely one of my Oscar contenders as well. Top 3.
I went into this movie knowing nothing about it, so I think no. It made it a very unique experience, and
sure.
That's why we're trying to hold back on spoilers, because I had no clue what this movie was about, and just the realization is really one of a kind, because you never have seen a movie like this, and there aren't a whole lot of movies about this subject matter either. There are probably more documentaries than actual feature films, and I gotta say that after watching it, I had no idea what the runtime of this movie was, because even though it's a very simple story with very few characters, it rushes past you the intensity and pretty much the not horror as in fear, but horror as in the grotesque nature of the situation.
Sure.
Just gets to you so quick that you almost like you feel like you're in room yourself. You feel trapped and you want to get out. So you almost like want the movie to end as soon as possible.
Sure.
But and I agree with you. And also for YouTube fans, it's very educational, because if you ever wondered what all the guys you watch on YouTube are up to when they're not on camera, well, this is probably a pretty accurate depiction of all the people who have time to complain about movies 24/7, what they do in their private life.
That is fucked up, Simon. That is really fucked up.
Because you know it's true. There's a documentary in the works about that probably right now.
How can you hate our listeners like that? Or listeners?
No. I mean, like the people making the video.
Oh, the content creators like me.
Yeah, the content creators. You know who you are.
You son of a bitch.
Just look at the beard. The beard and the glasses always give you away. The beard and the glasses, man.
That's too obvious, man. But I hear what you're saying, and putting aside your little stereotype of what some people look like, who they would be.
You mean the truth? Yeah.
Thank God you're not a police officer or a judge. You know, but it's a good, memorable movie overall. And,
it's very unique. Especially the reason why everybody's going crazy about the little boy, because there has never been a character on film like that one. His situation and perspective is so unique that you never really saw that done before.
Definitely.
You kind of wish, we could go back and show this to George Lucas before he makes The Phantom Menace, but never mind. Moving on.
Even the kid couldn't save that movie, by the way. No, even the right kid couldn't save that movie. The script was terrible. But moving on.
But that's a whole nother, let's avoid that road right now. That's a little sidetrack. But this is the final movie on the list. It deals with a very harsh situation as well. It's called Spotlight.
Yep.
And it has an all-star cast, and most people know that it deals with the controversy of basically rape and pedophilia in the Christian church among priests.
The Catholic Church, motherfucker. The Catholic Church.
Oh, hey, it's all the same.
It's all the same to you, I know.
They all priests on annual leave in the Vatican, which the movie very much highlights that. That's the most impressive thing for me about all these movies that came out this year. You can't trust bankers. You can't trust your government. You can't trust the police.
You can't trust the church.
You can't trust the church. You can't trust strangers on the street looking for their dog. You can't trust anybody. You can't even trust NASA to not leave you behind on Mars.
And you can't even trust the future, because we're all fucked. That's in Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, in 20 years. That's it. You can't trust anybody. That's it. But I would love to hear what you thought about this movie, because you said this is your third big pick for Oscars.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny? The more I think about this movie, the more I feel to myself, the subject matter is trumping the actual movie, because I love the characters. The acting's fantastic. Michael Keaton, Rachel McAdams, the Hulk, can't remember his name right now. Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, it's important to note that out of all the movies, this is the one that truly has a all-rounded cast. When I say that, not only is the main cast full of all stars, but also every actor is great. Even the small supporting characters are great, which is very important for the movie, because
Sure.
It's about journalists investigating rape victims, and the different members of the church and the lawyers who dealt with the cases and so on.
I would like to get into spoilers about this movie, because this movie actually, and now we're at the last movie, I will tell you, when it comes to my best picture pick, it's going to be between The Revenant and The Room. And the reason why Spotlight is third is because the thing with the Vatican, the thing with the pedophilia is very interesting, and the way they investigate is interesting, and the way it's acted is well. But when I was watching the movie, I like the movie on a whole, and I think it's a very important movie, but it just felt, even though I really like this movie, it did felt a bit like a checklist movie as well. Like, we have a super social, horrible issue with all these people involved, all these actors, but I'm like, if the movie didn't have all these actors, would I love it as much? Because it's like, it's a good movie, but the story drove me more than the movie. I don't know. It's like I said, with Room, it was the story, the kid, and the situation. Here, it's actually just the story on its own. The actors are good, but because they're all doing the same thing, they're not. And even on the different characters, you don't get too much into their lives in the movie anyway, which isn't really important. But because they're all reporters for the most part, the bad guys, the Vaticans and the lawyers, you don't see anything about them. I was actually surprised they didn't get more into the priest stuff or what they were doing. When they did at one point, they just went away. So I'm like, we're only seeing it from the reporter's perspective, and obviously the victims. Don't get me wrong, seeing the victims was horrible as well. But I came away from the movie saying, you need to watch this movie. That people need to see this movie for what happened to, obviously it's old news.
Sure.
But I just was like, Oscar nomination, I understand in terms of a cast, but the movie, I don't know. The movie for some reason it didn't kick me in the nuts.
It didn't have that climax in the movie where you really you felt like you were overwhelmed with some emotion.
Yeah.
Like in terms of emotions, like there's no variation. You don't go through anything. You pretty much from the get-go, you're on the same emotion. Like this is messed up, and you just feel bad for the victims. That's it.
Yeah,
you feel
exactly.
bad for the victims. You feel angry about the injustice. That's the consistent emotional tone of the movie.
But actually, my point is everything you said. And put it this way: if I watch a documentary of this, I would feel exactly the same way as the movie. That's the problem. The movie didn't do anything to elevate the whole situation. It doesn't need to. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't. You don't need to. You don't need to enhance.
Over-dramatize it.
You don't need to over-dramatize pedophilia. I get it. It's fucked up. I didn't need the movie to do that. But I'm just saying that if I watch a documentary, I would feel the exact same way as I felt from this movie. Even though the actors were great, I don't know. I just felt like I could have watched a documentary and I felt the same way. The actors were good and it was nice seeing them and they all did well, but they were all reporters. You didn't see behind their lives. Nothing to really differentiate any of them except for Michael Keaton. I could break it down and go deeper, but just for the record, I thought this movie was good. It's a movie that should be seen, to be honest with you. And I could see what was nominated, but it wouldn't be my best pick, especially against the last two I just mentioned.
Mm. Well, that's because you're all about the visuals and you're not about the story.
there was no visuals in Room. That's bullshit. I know.
To me, the standout thing about the movie is the cast. I think this is a movie you could literally praise every single actor, and it is just the very definition of a perfectly made film. Every aspect of it is flawless. So I guess that defines the nomination. You can't find a fault with it, but at the same time, like you said, it's not the most exciting movie, but because it is based on a true story and it stays faithful to that, it's not overproduced. It's not a Hollywood over dramatization. It really depicts what happened in real life and does a very good job at it. It's not one of my top picks, or if it would be, it would probably be an honorable one, like one of the on the bottom of the list, just because it's so well made and it's such an important story.
So as we've been speaking about these, have you narrowed down? I think I've narrowed down my top Oscar pick out of the list. By the way, I think
out of the list. Okay,
out of the list,
I'm completely I'm off the grid for my at least top 5. So this is gonna be interesting. Give me your top picks then, because it seems like you stay closer to what the actual Academy nominations are than I am.
I'm doing that on purpose. But let me give you my 2. If I had to go outside, if my movie, even not on this list, my movie of the year, if that's what you're asking me.
Yeah, give me, include everything you saw, but also what you really think stands out from like a critical point of view.
Honestly, the 2 movies that are up for me is The Beast of No Nation and The Revenant.
For real? Okay, so Beast of No Nation comes in, that high.
It does, because it...
Okay.
The perspective of the kids and this guy in charge, what he's doing to them, and the manipulation, and obviously the way it's shot. It's got everything: the shot, the visuals, the story, the characters. It's got everything I would want. The last scene in the movie is haunting. Is horrible, and you know, it's an unforgettable movie from start to finish. Just everything I love about it. It doesn't matter that it's not about me being black or it's a black movie. It's just a movie I will not forget for anytime soon. And The Revenant, the visceralness from beginning to end, and I cared about Leonardo DiCaprio. I cared about his son. I cared about him surviving. Just seeing his son got murdered. Leonardo DiCaprio makes you care. Every time I think, am I gonna like him in the next movie? Because all of his movies get overhyped in production. Then when they come out, like when I saw The Wolf of Wall Street, is it just overhyped because all the swearing? The movie was fantastic. He was fantastic in it. He's a phenomenal actor, and The Revenant, honestly, is probably my number one pick because
you would pick it over Beast of No Nation.
I would, unfortunately. I'm sorry, because it's a movie I could watch again.
Oh yeah,
beginning, middle, and has a good beginning, middle, and end. Has great arcs. And I just love the ending. I love the message. It's a great revenge story, even though I know to me the end like that. The Revenant just makes me feel the most in every way, and it just looks great.
Give me 3 more at least. Give me a top 5.
Looking at the list, Spotlight, The Room.
The Room, not The Room. That's the different.
Oh, don't do that, Simon. I'm talking about this year, not 10 years ago. Room, Mad Max Fury Road in terms of entertainment as well, believe it or not, and The Big Short.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's top 5, 6. I can accept that, and you voice your opinion on all of those. See, I'm completely different. I'm totally off. For me, it would be Straight Outta Compton, number 1, Creed, number 2, Mad Max Fury Road, Trumbo, which we will get to at the nominations for Best Actor. Then probably Trainwreck at number 5, and as honorable 2 extras, I would put Bridge of Spies and then Spotlight in there for me, because you mentioned it before that Straight Outta Compton doesn't appeal to the niche of the Oscars, but to me, if I have to think about a really brilliantly adapted screenplay and just overall excellent acting and really great production. I mean, that was a drama that was also a summer blockbuster. That's the movie that comes to mind. Everybody was great in it. And the thing I loved about the movie the most was the cast. That it was all of unknowns. You had all this fresh young talent showing me something I haven't seen before. You know, it wasn't expected. It wasn't the same actors doing things we have seen before, we were sold before. Sure. It was something completely different, and the movie was just so full of energy and captured, you know, really the spirit of an era. That if you grew up in that, or you grew up on the music, you knew exactly what it was about, and you could really relate to it. Not to mention the whole controversy with Black Lives Matters and police brutality in America. It's just an incredible movie, and I loved every second of it. And I think every actor from the main cast, the main 3, could have gotten a nomination, even if not a win, because they're young and it's time for Leo to get it. They really deserved it. Yeah. Creed, for me, succeeded where basically a lot of franchise movies fail these days, which is to stay consistent with quality. The biggest blockbuster of the year was Star Wars. And what's the main criticism everybody gave it? That it's a remake of New Hope. Yeah. It revisits the same areas. You know, Creed manages to be its own story. It's not a remake of Rocky. It's a very beautiful handing down the torch. You know, Rocky Balboa is basically a symbol of the American dream. And seeing his life story on film as you get older yourself, watching it as a kid, then as a teenager, then watching Rocky Balboa when you're growing up, and now watching it as an adult, seeing Rocky as an old man handing down the torch to Creed, played by Michael B. Jordan, who was also brilliant in the movie. You know, it's really emotional. It's one of the few movies that can really get to you. Stallone's great, coming back, and just small things about the movie, like a really beautiful original score. How many other movies in the top Oscar picks can you remember the score for? Can you hum the score for them? Not many, right?
Okay.
And to me, it was just really something more movies should do. If you're part of a franchise, stay consistent with quality and do your own thing. Don't just remake what worked in the past. Mad Max, we talked about, is just a very well done movie. and overall, if I had to pick one technically excelling film that pushes the limits of technology and special effects, it would be that. Trumbo is a movie I love because it echoes, again, a political time that kind of mirrored today with what we have in the American political system. The McCarthy era is one of the darkest times. And I never really seen it done from the perspective of, blacklisted actors.
Sure.
Or blacklisted Hollywood professionals. And it's crazy to see in the movie these people dealt with being called a communist for values that are now considered democratic. It's a really brilliant political commentary, and the cast is so strong, and you really feel transported back to that era.
It's a good cast.
Oh yeah, you feel like you're there. I would love to hear what you thought about it, but basically, I thought it was very, very well done. And when you think about movies like Brooklyn, dealing with a historical subject, it's kind of a snooze compared to Trumbo. so I love the cast. I think the cast was excelling. The atmosphere, the music.
It was good. I won't go into it, but it was. I liked it.
Yeah, and how many movies depict John Wayne as a idiotic, conservative?
As an asshole. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a very bold movie. It's a very bold movie. You could have made it 30 years ago. No way. No freaking way you could have made that movie in the 80s. Forget about it. In part one, we talked about Trainwreck, just a very well-made comedy.
Sure.
Very well written, very well acted, very original, and those are the excelling qualities you need for a good comedy. So I don't understand why I wouldn't get a nomination for that.
I want to say I feel brainwashed because I wouldn't even consider that for Oscar, but that's me thinking of how the Oscars, I put my mind on how they see things. So, everything you said is right, and I feel bad for not even thinking about that because just the way I think, Oscars don't nominate films like that. But, it just shows how they've conditioned our mind to think what an Oscar film should be. And you're right, it does tick all the boxes. And if it was made 20 years ago, as you said before, it would have been a definite Oscar pick. So I agree with you.
See, that movie should have been made 20 years ago, and you could have made, let's give it 40, but let's give it 50. But Trumbo could have been made then. It had to be made now. But, yeah. So, like I said, I think those movies succeeded, because a lot of these movies try to tackle...
But what was your number one Oscar pick, though? You said your five.
Out of all those.
Yeah, out of all of those.
On a personal level.
On a personal level, that's what it is.
Because Rocky's so close to me. I would go with Creed.
Okay.
I got really emotional. But if I have to say the movie that I thought was the best made, best acted, most outstanding was Straight Outta Compton. Because if you look at the biopics we had previously with Aaliyah, Whitney Houston, the straight to teledramas, straight to television.
Don't use those as an example. Use something like Biggie as an example. Those didn't get cinema releases. Those didn't get cinema releases. That's not fair.
No. You gotta keep it 100. That's it. You gotta keep it 100.
Keep it theatrical. No, keep it theatrical. If you're comparing to, be fair. Even the Biggie one's not good though. Notorious isn't good. What you're saying is right. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. Yeah. There was a standard there they could have stuck to, and they went above and beyond and knocked it out of the park. That movie blew me away. It is in its own right for the subject matter it's dealing with. It's an incredibly realistic depiction. It's made by the people who the film is about. You can't get more real than that, and the cast is terrific. You were there when we saw it together.
Yeah,
it's what movies are all about. The whole theater was up. We were singing along to the songs, rapping along. It took us back in time. It was an incredibly intense experience. So I love that movie. It couldn't get enough nominations, if you ask me. It was such well done as a film.
And that's why I got none. So let's move on. So let's move on into we're in overtime. That's your own fault. So I'm good for time. So we got to push on to the actors nominations, all the other subcategories. I'm gonna let you ride into it because we agreed we're gonna go through and we'll just go back and forth to get through it very quickly. You guys want to know the movies mostly anyway. The actors are not so much, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, I'll list every actor for lead, both male and female, and then let's just go through it.
Okay.
So leads are Bryan Cranston for Trumbo, Matt Damon for The Martian, Leo for The Revenant, Michael Fassbender for Steve Jobs, and Eddie Redmayne for The Danish Girl. Actresses are Cate Blanchett for Carol, Brie Larson for Room, Jennifer Lawrence, of course, for Joy, Shara Rampling for 45 Years, and Saoirse Ronan for Brooklyn.
This is easy. Very easy. Believe it or not, for the male leading role, I've got 2 tied. And actually,
for real, you have a tie.
Yeah, I have a tie because I have to go back on something I said. There's one movie that is actually one of my favorite that I wish was nominated, and the people are gonna think it's bait, like I'm being obvious, but I actually really, really, really enjoy The Danish Girl. And that movie, man, the way they the way they advertise that movie, I thought, I'm not gonna like this. It's very on the nose. We're in that the LBG time where everyone's just trying to make the movie to get in.
Very easy pick for Oscar bait.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's just so they're just phoning it in. Eddie Redmayne's performance was phenomenal in that. I believed him 100%. He made a beautiful woman, dare I say, but I felt sorry for him, and he emoted fantastically well. So it's a tie, but the only thing is The Revenant had everything else going for it. The Danish Girl's actually in my top movies of the year. I would actually knock probably Mad Max out and put the Danish Girl in because yeah, it's really, really good movie. I was really shocked I liked it. It's probably my best LBG. I know it's a few LBG movies of people with sexual identity crisis or whatever. This was the best one I've seen.
You love your boxes tonight. You're like, this is the best LDT movie out of all the LDT movies.
Well, today, yeah, I'm sorry. So I know
they should have a best LDT movie category at the Oscars.
No, I'm not. I don't want them to do that. I do not want them to make those categories up. I'm just making it easy for myself. But it would be a tie. I actually might go with Eddie Redmayne more than Leo, to be honest with you, because he had to do more of his part than Leo, who was grunting a bit. Leo showed a lot of emotion, but what Eddie Redmayne did in The Danish Girl, it did what it meant to do with the character. The transformation was complete. I completely believed it. Emotional, really great movie. I would give it a high first class movie. It's one of the best movies of the year. I'm sorry I didn't mention it, but it wasn't in the list. That's why I forgot. So, and as for actress, so I'll just finish it off since I'm audio.
Yeah, go for it.
Looking at the list, I'd have to give it to Brie Larson. The other movies, Carol was crap. Carol was not a good movie about a lesbian relationship. It was boring as hell. Jennifer Lawrence, it was just an okay movie, so I'm not going to go into it. 45 Years was dull. I liked it was a movie about old people, and on top of that, the actress Charlotte Rampling or whatever, she had something to say about the Oscars so white that the black actors didn't get because they didn't act well enough. But then she admitted she hadn't seen the movies, which is total nonsense, so she should shut her fucking mouth. And Brooklyn, no. It's just a good movie. It's not, her performance was not stellar at all. It's just a good movie. She's a good actress, but no. So for me, it's easy, Brie Larson. She put up with something in that movie that's just hard to watch, but she acted fantastically well. So that was easy for me, especially the female lead. Easy.
Fair enough. I actually have more of a comment on who's kind of a token nom than the actual nomination, the actual ones I would pick for best, because I think like Fassbender and Matt Damon, they were very good, but they kind of did what we expected them to. So I think those were kind of nominations that could have went to other people. That's open for opinion.
Okay.
I think they're two great actors that do consistently good work, but this wasn't a standout picture for either of them. In terms of the noms, I agree with Leo simply because it's his time. It's one of those situations where it could have been anything.
Yeah.
But it's his time. Give it to him. So that's what I'm gonna go with.
Fine.
And in terms of who would I nominate, obviously the guys from Straight Outta Compton. Not give it to them. They're young. They have plenty of time to grow. But come on, man, they were amazing. So I would have given all of them a nomination. But actress. Instead of Miss Racist or whatever her name is, I would of course put my pick, Teyonah Parris from Chirac in there, who I actually enjoyed the most. I think she brought a very unique energy on screen, and I really would have loved to have seen her get it, or at least get a nomination.
But what if you had to pick from the Oscar lists?
Oh, that's easy. You know where I was going. I was agreeing with you. Brie Larson, no question.
Just asking.
So, yeah, that's where we're going. That's pretty much undisputed.
Definitely.
I agree with you with Carol 100%. I thought it was a very good story in a very dull movie. So I don't really see why it's even on there. Cate Blanchett is a terrific actress, and I guess that's it. She's in a phase of her career where she gets the best parts that suit her talents the best. So she's gonna give a great performance every single year. I guess we can move on to our final topic of discussion, which is the best supporting actors.
Yeah.
For the male one, Christian Bale, The Big Short, Tom Hardy, The Revenant, Mark Ruffalo, Spotlight, Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies. Excuse me if I mispronounced that.
That's fine.
Sylvester Stallone for Creed. And as for actress in a supporting role, Jennifer Jason Leigh in The Hateful Eight, Rooney Mara in Carol, Rachel McAdams in Spotlight, Alicia Vikander in The Danish Girl, and Kate Winslet in Steve Jobs.
I'm doing this in reverse because now I've got an easy male pick and a tie for the female pick.
Hey man, you take your time. I know how John Travolta feels like because I'm still reading these names like, did I pronounce that right?
Male lead's easy. Out of the list, Sylvester Stallone, he killed it. He killed it with Creed. It's so easy. I completely fell for him. The emotion he brought, it one of his best performances to date. He had some of the best lines in the movie, by the way. He probably had all the best lines in the movie. Not saying Michael B. Jordan wasn't better, but I'm just saying that Sylvester Stallone brought the emotion. Most for me anyway. So it's out of the rest. He killed the rest.
I join you there. You can cross me out already. I think Rocky was the first movie he won an Oscar for the script, and his first nomination. It's also the movie that made him famous. So this is a match made in heaven. He kind of has to get it for this. This is almost like his goodbye Rocky picture. So
sure,
if you're gonna give it to him at any given time, give it to him for this.
Sure. So for my female supporting role, I don't want to tie it. I really don't, because
you shouldn't. It doesn't count.
Oh god damn it. Okay, so I'm gonna go with what's her? I can't pronounce her name. Alicia Whitaker in The Danish Girl.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to tie her.
Michael Fassbender's, I think, wife, or at least longtime girlfriend.
Really? Hopefully, this is the same girl that's in Ex Machina. She's playing Eddie Redmayne's wife. I'm sure that's her. I'm sure that's... if it's her, then yeah, she's the one I'm picking. I was going to pick Jennifer Jason in The Hateful Eight, but to be honest with you, her character doesn't do enough, but she acted really well in that movie. But in The Danish Girl, Alicia, the character, the things she has to do for Eddie Redmayne's character, she emotes a lot of emotion. I wish she went a little bit further, but going up against everyone else on the list, which is what I'm basing my choices on, she's the strongest. Kate Winslet, Steve Jobs, hell no. Hell no way.
And Rooney Mara either. They're both kind of token noms there.
Rachel McAdams, I like her as an actress, but she showed a little bit of emotion, but she played more of a she didn't play a stale reporter, but she didn't show a lot of range in that. I'm sorry, it's not her fault, by the way. The way it was written for her, she didn't have much to do except for report, so I don't know how she could get a nomination for that. But anyway.
Yeah, you're right. These noms are kind of funny. I was looking at them, scratching my head like.
And as for Rooney Mara and Carol, her eyes were very she looked like a puppy. In that movie, she looked like a puppy for most of the movie. And I don't really like her as an actress anyway, but in the movie she didn't do much. She was just taken advantage of in the movie, and that's it. The range. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The female pickings are not very good here, but out of all of them, it's definitely Alicia from the Eddie Redmayne movie. Sorry.
I agree with you, and I also agree with you about the nom criticism, because I'll give it to you straight. The Rooney Mara and Kate Blanchett, they got it for the sex scene. Sorry to spoil anything, people, but
it wasn't that good. It wasn't that good either.
Yeah, I know, but from the Academy's point of view, it was a great sacrifice of your own boundaries or whatever. But yeah, I guess finally I would just like to ask you, who would you have picked instead for female best support? Because that's a good question.
I haven't given it a lot of thought. I really haven't, you know.
But I think it wasn't a good movie for females. A good year in movies for females for roles.
Supporting's even harder. The main one, you got to narrow it down because they don't get a lot of parts anyway. So when you get to supporting, unless it's a movie which had 2 female roles in it, obviously, or a female cast, it's very hard to pick.
I think in a year where, you know, the whole, not only Jennifer Lawrence's comments, but the whole pay gap between actors was a prominent subject. It kind of shows that, you know, that's another thing people could protest against. Maybe not just against the Oscars, maybe against, you know, the studios themselves. What am I saying? Maybe just in Hollywood in general, that you can really see the lack of opportunity, at least, you know, a certain level of opportunity for females.
Sure.
I mean, obviously these people, you know, these actresses are very good and they get paid very well, but half of these are, you know, just token nominations for roles that weren't really all that.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I guess that wraps up our Oscar look over for 2016. This is the first time I've ever done this. Just, you know, I want to say this, people. Someone actually asked me, how much weight do you put on the Oscars? Not much. But like I said, I've grown up with the Oscars out of interest, never out of heart. Never like, oh, I can't wait till you wins and all that. Because like you said before, Simon, most of the times, who deserves to win don't win. There's political games going on, there's manipulation. So it's fun to do it for a podcast, but I don't put a lot of weight in the Oscars. Golden Globes, I feel the same. It's like, I think Golden Globes are a little bit more honest, but now they're becoming more popular, they're starting to go down the route of the Oscars for me. But at least there you're seeing things getting nominated. You don't even see it get nominated here. So you're not going to see a Golden Globe show ever. I'm just going to say it for the record. But, you know, awards in general, I don't know, man. It's nice. It helps them. I like what they do for the movie industry in terms of promotion. But in terms of accolades and celebrating the movies, most of the time, you know, like I said, I don't feel like the right things get awarded or nominated. And this year is a prime example of that. The pickings this year in particular were really slim. Honestly, just looking through the list, a lot of the movies you mentioned, Simon, should have been nominated and they weren't. So I limited myself into what was on the list. But especially the female leads you mentioned, I think I could have picked a lot of better films that I saw that weren't even nominated at all, that had better acting for the females, period.
Probably. I agree with you 100%. And I think we exhausted the subject matter.
Sure. So any final thoughts before we sign out?
Straight Out Compton won Best Picture. That's it.
All right, so guys, if you don't know, Sammy and Rad's got a Twitter handle. What's your Twitter handle? I'm going to put it on the screen anyway, but just in case you remember, what's your Twitter handle?
It's Simon_Rad. That's Simon, SIMEON_RAD.
So if you got any comments to him, you didn't like anything he had to say, hit him up on Twitter, tell him he's a son of a bitch, you don't agree with him.
Or if you have a hot sister, you can just show me a pic. You can do that too. Don't be so violent.
And obviously you can get me at planettyro.com or at Don Tyro, me personally. But all the links are on the screen or in the description. Leave a comment down below. I want to say thanks for listening if you got this far. It's a new venture. This is probably going to be one of our longer ones. It was a 2-part about the Oscars. But when we're bitching about other stuff, we're going to try to make it a 1-part, even if it's 1 hour and a half. But again, we want to hear your thoughts. Leave it down below. Hit that subscribe button for more content. And, you know, if you think we should put this podcast on iTunes, let me know. Right now, we're not going to do it because we just want to gauge the experience, but we're doing this for fun, not even for hits right now. We're just doing it because I wanted another outlet for Planet Tyro. It was Oscar time, but now it's over. Simon's tired, I'm tired, and I've got to edit this motherfucker, so let's get the hell out of here. Thanks for listening, guys. See you in the next one.
Thanks for sticking it out. See ya.
Peace.